for other lives to come. I'm here yearning for other lives to come.
Dumelang, Kganya, Lesedi, Thokozane, Kamaku. I hope you guys are wonderful. So today we're going to be talking about why so many people are initiating. So this is actually a topic that's causing a lot of debate. I don't even understand why it's even a debate, because it's a great thing. People are actually going back to their roots, to their culture, right? So the one thing that people are always curious about is why people are initiating, why a lot of people are being called to be healers, to initiate, to be sangomas and whatnot. And is it a trend or is it something that's real? So I wanted to give my own point of view, because at the time that I was called to be a healer, it was still a massive taboo. Like, it was weird. Like, I had to walk around with my beads, and I'd literally be the only person wearing beads at the time. Unlike today, like, you'd find so many sangomas along the street, and it's actually quite amazing, right? So, at my time, it will always be, it used to be so weird walking around with beads, and it was a massive taboo to a lot of people, and you'd get a lot of weird things from it, right? So times have changed, whereas a lot of people are initiating, and a lot of people at first were like, oh, this is wonderful, but now it's getting to that point where people are like, why are so many people initiating? Is this a trend? And I'm not gonna say that everyone is doing it in the right way. I mean, some people are initiating, but the way that they're going about the spiritual gift is something that is questionable, which is understandable why people may be asking, why are people initiating so much, right? But I've noted down some of the few reasons which can actually assist you guys or give you guys clarity on why it is happening in the way that it is, and why this is the right time for people to be called to their gifts at this particular moment in time, right? So the first thing, oh, by the way, my number is at the top, but remember, it is not for questions. If you have any questions, please leave them on the comment section. The number is for consultation bookings only. Thank you. Okay. I had to say that every single time because you guys don't listen. No offense, but you guys don't listen. Anyways, the first thing that I wanted to point out is that we have reached an age of spiritual awakening. This is an age whereas the spiritual guys, the ancestors, are getting back to their power, because we've went through a long period of time. As I won't even look at other cultures, other spiritualities, but as African people, whereas our gift was demonized, right? And whereas it was demonized, we were suppressed from actually appeasing our ancestors in the way that we had to. And a lot of people at that point in time, when they were found out that they had gifts, they actually went to a point where as they tried to convert their gift to a prophetic gift, or completely they avoided their gifts altogether. And a lot of the ancestors actually let that slide. But this is a point in time where as there's so many things going on in the world, both spiritually and physically, that awakening is needed for guidance, for clarity, so people can actually know what to do and what not to do, how to attend to certain things in the right manner, so people can connect with their ancestors. So even when things go out of hand in a spiritual manner, because right now it's like the years that are coming, or rather the years that we are in, these are the years where as the spiritual energy is very high, right? And this is the energy that compels a lot of people to awaken. So it gives our ancestors a lot of strength, and they're basically like, we've been dormant for way too long, so we are just going to be all over the place right now, right? So that is why you find a lot of people initiating. And it's not really the fact during back then people were not gonna be able to initiate, but it's rather the fact that back then a lot of people were ashamed of being sangomas. They were ashamed of being healers. So right now, a lot of African people are like, you know what, we want to return to our roots. We want to go back to the ways of our ancestors. We want to do what our ancestors did to a certain extent. Hence, that is why it is so easy, and why a lot of people are accepting their gifts in the way that they are. And that is why a lot of people are no longer ashamed to say, you know what, I am a healer, I am a prophet, I am someone who's called to help people in the ways of my ancestors and my forefathers. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so point number two, more people are moving away from Western teachings, right? So I'm not actually judging or putting Western teachings in a bad light. I basically don't have any problems with Western teachings, Christianity. I really don't care. So basically what's happening is that we have for a long time been taught things in a Western manner, right? With Western gods, we were introduced to Western belief systems and whatnot, but those were not necessarily our belief systems initially. we as Africans had our own belief system to begin with, and when certain things happen in Africa, colonization and whatnot, then a lot of people were forced to actually take upon the Western teachings, to look at this particular Western teachings and say, okay, you know what, we have to accept them. Ne? At that particular moment in time, when you practice African spirituality, then you were going to be killed and whatnot. So most of our ancestors actually allowed our forefathers to convert their gifts in a Western manner, so they can be able to continue to help people through the church, through other means that are actually accepted in the Western culture, ne, which actually deprived our African teaching. So right now, a lot of people, like I said earlier, they are moving back to their roots. People want to understand more about African spirituality. People want to understand more about where they came from, right? Where their ancestors came from, where their forefathers came from. And this is a matter that is occurring all over the world. People from different countries are actually trying to figure out what is going on, or where did their ancestors come from, and what belief system did they have. And that is slowly drawing them back to the African roots that they came from initially, that their forefathers came from, where their forefathers were born, what they did when they were alive, and all those kind of stuff. Ne? Number 3, Bungoma is now normalized and no longer a taboo. I already said that. Number 5, oh, number 4, that was number 3. Number 4, we stepped into an era of healing. So when I'm talking about an era of healing, understand that our ancestors, our forefathers, they went through a lot, right? And with the things that our ancestors went through, there were a lot of traumatic experiences that they had. And these traumatic experiences, they went from generation to generation, whereas the trauma and the injustice that our forefathers may have encountered, they followed on to teach that to their children and their children's children and whatnot, and so on. It went from generation to generation. So we've gotten to a generation, or rather, yeah, a lineage in our society or in our country or in our world, whereas people are starting to look at ways to heal their inner children and also to remove generational curses. Remember that when people did not appease their ancestors, that also became a huge cause of generational curses in bloodlines and generations, right? So people are now saying, you know what, I do not want to continue living in the manner that my grandparents did or my parents did and whatnot. I want to put an end to this. This is an era whereas a lot of people are breaking generational curses, and in terms of breaking generational curses, it requires a lot of people to actually step into their spirituality and step into their healing. Not only are they healing themselves physically, but also emotionally, basically, but they're also healing themselves spiritually. Because spiritual healing also means that these people are going to start practicing certain spiritual practices, and this also evokes the spirit, the ancestors, the forefathers, the ones that were not able to appease their ancestors in their time because of certain situations, and the ones that were able to appease their ancestors at the time to actually come forth and say, you know what, this is what we did. This is how we healed ourselves in our time, or this is what we were supposed to have done in order to heal ourselves. So now that you are here and you are saying, you know what, I'm going to put an end to this generational trauma and curses that were in my bloodline or in my generation or in my family for a very long period of time, I want to come through and heal that, so my children can have a better chance at living a very free life. Because honestly speaking, freedom is something I don't want to be political, but freedom is a mental thing at this particular moment than it is a physical thing. At this particular moment, it's more mental than anything. So my children can be able to have the freedom that my ancestors didn't, or that I didn't when I was born, when I was growing up. I am gonna go through this route of healing my generational ancestors, my forefathers, man. And this is whereas in issues, whereas, or rather not really issues, or in situations whereas people are initiating, you find that certain people are initiating for the main purpose of bringing healing to certain spirits. Because get that thing out, when a person passes away, and whereas this person is passing away in a point whereas they did not appease or do whatever it is that they were supposed to do in this world, then they will not be able to cross over. So people are actually healing their ancestors by initiating in order to help certain spirits within their family to cross over. That way, there won't be any spirit that is affecting and attacking and delaying the progress of people within that family because of the fact that they are still in the dark. Because our job as this new generation is to actually bring or put our ancestors into the light by doing what they did, by stepping into their spirit, to the spiritual realm of things, to stepping into the spiritual teachings and practicing them in order for them to find peace and clarity and say, you know what, my great great grandchild did what I was not able to do, and this child did it for me, and also my other ancestors that were not able to do it at that particular moment in time, right? And another thing that I want to emphasize, or rather talk about here, is what people are being called for. Because in terms of all these things that I spoke about as to why people are being called into initiating, there are also people that are initiating for different purposes. We don't all initiate to become sangomas. Then we don't all initiate to be healers and all those kind of things. There are different reasons why people are initiating. First of all, you are initiating to be a healer, but not everybody. Some people are initiating to help people, to heal people in the manner that our ancestors and our forefathers did. Man. That is why you find some people, they are called to be healers, to be sangomas, to be prophets, whatever type of gift, whatever you want to call it, right? You're called to do that, and your ancestors say, you know what, we want you to carry on and continue doing this. We will send you people that are in need of spiritual and traditional help. Your job is to help them because we were not able to do that, or because certain people in the lineage were not able to do this. So when you do this, this is where as you'll be healing the ancestors in your family, and this is where as you'll be healing or removing generational curses within this particular lineage or family or generation, right? Number two, they enter into initiation to heal their ancestors. So this is a point that has a lot of I won't say conditions, but reasons to it. Né? The first one is that there are peace spirits of ancestors who could not initiate due to their life outcomes and struggles. I spoke about that they are initiating for those people who were not able, who were not given the opportunity, who were afraid to actually initiate because of the stigmatism or the mindset that was around spirituality, and also the harm or danger that it posed to them at that particular moment in time. Then, secondly, there are peace spirits of ancestors who refuse to initiate, right? So there are those ancestors that completely do not want anything to do with it. Even today, there are people that do not want anything to do with bongoma or initiating or appeasing their ancestors. And for me, I would basically say that Fetu, it's your choice. Do whatever it is that you want to do in life, man. But the issue with that, like I said, you won't be able to do your life purpose, to come into this world, because remember that when we get into this world, we come here with a purpose. The ancestors, or rather, when you come into this world, your soul already has a contract to say, when I come into this world, I have to be this kind of person, I have to do this, and I have to learn this at the end of the day. So when you are unable to do the things that you are signed up to do when you came into this world, then most of the times it's likely that your spirit is not going to rest, your spirit is gonna linger around. And if it does not linger around, this is where as you might reincarnate. I know a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation, but I do for my own crazy reasons. Don't judge me. And come back into this world to actually right their wrongs, right? So this is where as you're doing this for the spirit that refuse to initiate. And I know someone out there is watching this and thinking, why, since they refuse, why do I have to carry the burden? You are chosen before you are born to say, okay, this is the person who's going to be able to carry this burden. Because honestly speaking, it doesn't matter what spiritual gift you have. It can be bungoma, it could be istunyo, it doesn't matter. It's a very difficult route, and I understand why people have mixed feelings about it. Some are happy about it, some basically hate it. I don't judge nobody, but it's understandable. But you were chosen because your ancestors knew the kind of person that you are. They knew your heart to a certain extent, and they knew that if anything, you are the one who'll be able to carry the burdens that will come with this gift that you have, because every type of gift has its own burdens to a certain extent, right? Number three, they do this to cleanse the spirits of their ancestors who work for the dark side. So, it's very easy for a person to jump into the dark side when they are given this amount of power. I mean, not everyone can tell you your future, your past, and your present, and also have ways in which they can manipulate, not really manipulate, but make certain outcomes happen for you. So, the thing about us human beings is that we are controlled by power. We are controlled by the ability to do certain things, and that is something that kills a lot of people. Because when you're called to be a healer, that's exactly it. You're called to be a healer. to heal people, to help people. But then people are like, oh, but you know what? I can actually do this. I can actually control life and death. I can kill a person. I can do this. I can do that. I can make someone's life go bad. I can, like, and that just depends on the kind of person that you are, because some people are not built to snacks, just to put it like that. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. But I'll put shoo shoo. Yeah, that is how the term goes, right? So you find that there are certain ancestors or people within your lineage that when they were called, they did a lot of bad things. They hurt a lot of a lot of people, right? And they had no remorse, and they in turn evoked negative spirits or called upon negative entities in their work. So sometimes when you're called to be a healer, your job, or maybe when you're called to initiate, then your main purpose may be to cleanse the spirits that went into the dark side, that used the gift of healing to do harm to others, because that is not what your gift is for. It is not, it is far from it. And if, let's say for example, you have an ancestor that says do this bad thing to other people, kill this person, do that, then you are working with a very negative spirit, and that spirit needs to be removed or cleansed, one of the two. There's no ancestor that will give you a gift so you can harm others, unless if basically just it, right? Another thing, which is the last point regarding this, they initiate, or rather, yeah, they initiate in order to return their ancestors home, to the home, right? So this is where, as you find that it's not like the Indiki. Is it Indiki or Indiki? I think it's Indik. Yeah, this name's always confuse me. We talked about a certain spirit back in the old days when we were younger, whereas we talked about this spirit as the spirit of someone who passed away far from home. So in most cases, you might find that this particular spirit was also spiritually gifted. In other cases, it doesn't necessarily need to be someone who was spiritually gifted. But this person may have left home for certain purposes or reasons. And wherever it is that they went, they may have made a life there or not. But the main thing is that this particular person passed away far from home, and this spirit was never brought back home. Sometimes, and understand that with Ndiki or Ndiki, it's not necessarily an initiation procedure. There are certain rituals specifically for it. But there are certain people by Longore, when they may have this type of spirit, they are also required to initiate in order to appease the spirit. And that is where Lord, this particular spirit has a spiritual, like this particular person was someone who had a spiritual gift in their time. So it's also that thing out there brought or given this particular gift of initiating to also bring certain spirits back home, and also to unite certain spirits that are within the family, because certain spirits you find that they are very scattered. Some ancestors are not able to enter the home, even if this particular ancestor is not an Indiki, but this particular ancestor can be a grandfather, a great grandfather, it doesn't matter which lineage, but this is someone who cannot enter into the home. So when you're called to initiate, you might find that the reason why you're initiating is to actually do this. So with this, with people initiating to heal their ancestors, you might find that in most cases, after initiating and doing all these things that their ancestors are actually calling them to initiate for, they don't necessarily have to heal people after that. Yes, there's certain knowledge that they will acquire through initiation, but that person, they can say, you know what, I don't want to continue to be a Sangoma, and that will be fine, because you served your main purpose when you actually did the things that your ancestors wanted you to do. When you decided to heal your ancestors, your forefathers, that is where, Lord, you served your main purpose of initiating. And that is where, Lord, after that, you can continue with your life. And you might find that after that, you are required or asked to do certain things for your ancestors, have a ceremony, a ritual once in a while in the family. And another thing of having a ritual, it doesn't necessarily mean that only people with spiritual gifts do that. Even people without spiritual gifts are required to have ceremonies, thanksgiving for their ancestors, because sometimes you have ancestors, you don't even know it. Oh no, everyone has ancestors, but sometimes the ancestors that are working with you are the ones that give you your blessings, your abundance, your luck, like all the good things in your life. So you constantly need to give thanks to these particular ancestors to ensure that they see that you appreciate what they are doing for you, so they can continue to do that, right? So yeah, name. And the last point as to why people are initiating, it is because of the fact that they are mainly there to remove generational curses. I don't think I could have ever pressed this hard enough. I talked about this a lot, to remove generational curses, and there is nothing else in between. Understand that with spirits by Longore, some spirits people refuse to initiate for their ancestors. Some people could not be able to initiate for their ancestors. Like I said earlier, that actually causes a generational curse, right? With people by Longor, maybe there are certain people within their lineage who actually did bad things for to other people. They use their spiritual gift in a bad manner. That also creates a generational curse. So when you're initiating, that is where as you actually bring healing to your ancestors. That is where Longor, you bring your ancestors into the light. You remove generational curses, so your children and your children's children can have a life whereas things are going right for them. That is why you find that with people by Longoring are sometimes called into initiation, right, for the main purpose of removing generational curses. This is whereas after initiating or in the process of initiating, you'd see things changing for their families, right? If, let's say, for example, the generational curse actually, let's say, it caused death within the family, or better, it caused poverty within. Not, I'm not saying that poverty is better, it's just a better example, but it caused poverty within the family, right? So Kimoilongor, when this person enters initiation or when this person finishes appeasing and initiating for their ancestors, things start to open up for the family. Maybe family members start getting jobs, things are starting to look better for the family, financially are in a better space because the generational curse that was holding your family back, that was bringing your family in a very bad place, is removed completely, and now the blessings can start coming to you guys from the ancestors that have been trying to give you guys your blessings for the longest period of time. Anyways, that is it for today's video. Thank goodness it is short. I've been hoping I don't make long videos for too long. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys understand this, and I hope this actually answers your question as to why a lot of people are initiating, and it also helps people that are called into initiation to actually understand what it is that you are initiating for. Yes, sometimes you can be initiating for all those things, né? But for other times you might find that you're initiating for one or two of those reasons. So it's best for you guys to understand why you're initiating. That way you can basically choose the right path. Because remember, like I say in most of my videos, understand your gift, understand the purpose of your gift, and understand why you're called to this gift. That way you'll be able to make the best of it and make the right choices that will actually please your ancestors and allow you to move forward constantly with your spiritual journey. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys have a beautiful one. Takozani. Bye bye.
I'm here yearning for all the lives to come. I'm